Hey, Rich, it's Bob Marks over at Epic Solutions. Hopefully, you can see my screen okay. Put together a couple of ideas about your website that I wanted to share with you. So, as I look at the site, one of the first questions that I ask is when I look at a homepage is, what do you want me to do? So sometimes that could be watch a video. Sometimes that could be look at our products. Sometimes it could be sign up for our newsletter, something like that. So I wanted to walk through some of the things that I noticed on the site that I know you and I had talked about a week ago, and share with you a couple of ideas, whether you use us or not. These are definitely going to be a couple of actionable things that I think should make a pretty immediate impact. So as I go through the site, a couple of things that I noticed right away. Lots of data on here. And sometimes that can make things kind of difficult to find. So actually, I also had a question. I noticed that we have a buy now button on the site and on quite a lot of products. But when I click on that buy now button, I'm not really sure what to do as a customer. Do I go to DigiKey Corporation to purchase the product, or do I email you, or do I call? But really just kind of setting it up to make it a little bit more intuitive. Now, in terms of SEO, how do we get your website to rank higher? How do we get it to be more relevant when somebody is looking for what it is that you sell? A couple of things that I noticed is when I click on the home button, and I hope you can see this up here at the top. So we've got the website address.com/default.htm. Okay. So this is our URL structure, your website address structure. And in this case, believe it or not, this little end piece is actually hurting you. So here's a program that I use to kind of really pull back the covers on what's going on inside of a website. How does the internet see your website? And one thing that I noticed, when I put in the web address of rpmsys.com/default.htm, we can see that we don't have any data showing up here. Backlinks, referring domains, keywords, and I'm going to dig into that in just a minute. But when I run the exact same report on just the website.com without the /default, then we're actually getting some real data. So here's the first big takeaway is if I were doing the SEO for your website, for your business, one of the first things I would do is clean up some of this URL structure, right? How the internet finds your site. So let's really pull back the covers here and talk about some solid ideas. Whenever I'm looking at a website report, right, there are really four big things that I'm looking at right away to find out, hey, where's the low-hanging fruit? Where are the easy places that we can implement immediately to see some big improvements? So let's cover those. The first thing I look at is, what does our website rank? Now, a lot of people don't know this, but every website has a specific rank number all over the world. So right now, your website is ranked 4,872,180, which isn't bad. I'd like to see that a little bit closer to the million mark, but again, not bad. The next thing I look at is the domain rating. So now this is on a scale of 1 to 100, and in this case, the higher the domain rating, the more you're going to show up on Google searches, the more relevant it becomes. So think of this like a trust score. The higher the trust score, the more likely the internet, Bing, Google, all those guys, are going to be to recommend your website higher than someone else with maybe a lower trust score. Okay. So right now, the domain rating, the trust score of the website is 28. Now, a couple of things go into where that number comes from, right? So part of it is how useful do people find your website when they go to it. This is when we start talking about things like bounce rate. How long do people stay on your website? When they go to your website, what do they do? Do they look at several pages? Are they taking those next logical steps? The other thing that's built into this domain rating is how many other websites are linking to your website, and what are we showing up organically for keywords. So I'm going to include as a download in this your current list of keywords that your website is already ranking for. Okay. I'll also include it's going to be on an Excel spreadsheet. So what you're going to look at is the keyword that the website's ranking for, the volume. So this is how many people are looking up this particular keyword a month, naturally. We're also going to take a look at what position we are, okay? So on this position line, you'll see some numbers going up in green, some numbers going down in red. Obviously, the higher position, number one, right, is page one of Google, spot number one. Now, in a standard Google search, there are typically 10 results per page, okay? So if we're ranking, if our position is number 15, that would be page 2, position 5. You with me? Okay. So we're doing a pretty good job in terms of how many keywords are we ranking for. As I went through the entire list, I'd really like to see more product codes popping up. Now, I've got a few ideas for that. So one is let's pump up the domain rating, add some more trust flow. We do that by making the website easier to use, easier to navigate, and easier for people to find the information they're looking for. The second thing we're going to do is identify what are the keywords that are most important to you. What do you really want to be found for? So in terms of selling products, right? Which products do you want to sell more of? This really kind of moves into more of a business conversation where we talk about margins, spreads. There are some products that might simply be easier for you to sell, even if you have a lower margin, but you could sell a whole lot of them. I'm making up examples, but I think you understand what I'm saying. Worked with a client in a fairly similar scenario. Okay, so when I click on the products, lots of stuff to dig through, lots of data sheets. We would really like to see these data sheets, while they're great for PDFs, let's also make these pages inside the site. What we're looking to do is to create more assets for you to be found on Google, right? So worked with another client, totally different industry. These guys sell airplane parts for Boeing 747s. They do military stuff, things like that. And one of the challenges that they had was, Bob, when people come to us, they're usually looking for a specific part number. So one of the things that we did was I created a separate parts market section, right, where we took every single part that they could possibly sell and we created its own individual web page, right? The reason we did that is so it's easier for the internet to find that number. So I just grabbed a part number here and we set up the database so everything's indexable, and we've got a part, looks like this is a coupler, that we can easily get to. So when I click on that, here it is. We made a specific page just for this part. Now, if I go to look up this part number, and I just search for it on Google, there we are right there. There's PowerJet parts in the number 2 spot on page 1. Because not many people go after specific part numbers or specs, it's a whole lot easier to get you to rank on the top pages for those part numbers. Hopefully that makes sense. So a couple of immediate fixes would be structuring the website so it's a lot easier to navigate through, really digging into a lot of these products and figuring out, okay, are people looking up these codes? If they are looking up those codes, are they always attached to this particular product, right? So in terms of device support, wouldn't it be great if we had a section where somebody could simply type in their device and then the website's indexed so we can say, hey, these are the products that support that piece. Couple other ideas that I want to run through with you, but first I guess would probably make sense for me to get a little bit of feedback, and I want to keep this video short, in terms of what can we do to make the website more profitable for you, right? I am very clear at my seat at the table. My job is to help people give you money for what it is that you sell. That sounds good. If you like what you've heard so far, let's figure out another time to get together in about 15, 20 minutes. We should be able to iron out whether or not us working together would be a good idea. I can share a couple more thoughts with you and see where it goes from there. All right. I hope you found this helpful. Thanks.